My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my list of my favorite movies from 2022. That's right, this video is coming out in April, a month where nobody cares about the best movies of the previous year, but I do try to watch as many movies as I can to make sure that my list actually represents my viewpoint. And I also try to go back and rewatch a bunch of movies that I want to rewatch. And I'm going to be honest, there were some movies that the first time I saw them, I was just like, okay, they're enjoyable. And then I rewatched them and I'm like, no, I was wrong. That was great. And you'll hear me say that a few times in this video. But let's begin with my 10th favorite movie of 2022. And it's going to be a very controversial pick because lots of people hate this movie. And I understand it to an extent. It is flawed, but for me, the positives outweigh the negatives. And before I say the title, I want to keep you in suspense for just a little bit longer because one of my favorite movies growing up was Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was a movie I could watch as a kid that wasn't made for me and was dark enough that it got under my skin and scared me. My parents told me not to watch, but I always did. And I feel like we don't get that kind of movie anymore. The blockbusters are a lot more family friendly, but I feel like we got one last year that really stood out to me, and it's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Yes, you have to watch WandaVision. Yes, America Chavez isn't a great character. Yes, that exposition scene is bad. Yes, the multiverse dimension that they go to is boring. I don't disagree with any of that. But what Sam Raimi brings to this movie can't be overstated. He elevates this movie in every possible way, and he brings so many of his Evil Dead sensibilities and just displays them in beautiful fashion. Like, the entire last act of this movie is golden. You got this fight between two Doctor Stranges using musical notes, and I'm just like, this is unlike anything else. And then Doctor Strange has to control a dead version of himself to fight Wanda. In that moment on the rooftop where the lightning strikes in the background and the hand pops up and it cuts back to Doctor Strange and he's just like, I'm just like, I love this. I love this so much. That is one of my favorite moments of the entire MCU. And then he has to fight the souls of the damned, and he makes a cloak with them, and then he traps Wanda in this bubble of them, and I'm just like, I love this so much. Like, this is so wacky, it's so out there, and it's just incredible. And you also got this scene early on with a giant eyeball popping out of a monster's head. You got this great scene where Wanda is attacking the heroes through the mirror dimension. You've got this scene where Wanda's chasing them down like it's a slasher movie. I loved the Illuminati stuff because you just watch them get killed in these brutal moments. What mouth? Loved it. I loved when Wanda takes over the other body of herself. It reminded me of an Evil Dead possession moment. I just loved so much of this movie. The scene was going through all the different multiverses, but I do think you got yourself some strong character work, and Doctor Strange kind of realizing that he isn't happy with his life, and I liked all of that. I thought his romance with Christine was really strong, and that line, I love you in every universe, it got to me a little bit. Benedict Cumberbatch keeps this movie grounded. Rachel McAdams does a really good job. She's charming as ever. Elizabeth Olsen just delivers as a villain. Benedict Wong is really funny. And Danny Elfman's score is great. I love the last moment of this movie when he grows the third eye and it cuts to credits. I love so much of this movie. I'll acknowledge it is flawed, but I love it. I have a blast with it, so it's my 10th favorite movie of 2022. My 9th favorite movie of 2022 is this movie that's considered a TV show on some websites, and it's not. It's an anthology movie, but a movie nonetheless, and it's called The House. And it's one that I feel like nobody knows about, nobody talked about, and it's a damn shame. It focuses on 3 different stories. The first one is very creepy and very atmospheric. The second one is very psychologically disturbing. And the last one is depressing for a while, but it ends on a very hopeful note. And I just love looking at these 3 stories separately and then all together, and how they communicate so many of the same ideas about focusing on material objects and consumerism, and how the real focus on your life should be on the people around you. And I would love to rewatch this movie and analyze it and do a deep dive into this movie, because I feel like there is so much substance here. It's also stop motion animated, and it is just stunning to look at, especially the first one. I love the character designs there. I thought the music by Gustavo Santaolalla was so unique and creative. There's this one moment where a character is on drugs and he pictures some cockroaches dancing, kind of like in Cats. The music there is just wacky, different, fun, and I love it. I love the song in the end credits, and it's just a movie filled with creative ambition, with substance, and it came out last January, and it's one that I thought about all year long. I absolutely loved it, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's a Netflix movie, so I hope it gets released on physical media one day, but that's doubtful. My 8th favorite movie of 2022 is the Bob's Bogle movie. When I watched this for the first time, I was just like, I liked it. It's enjoyable. Then I rewatched it, and I'm like, nah, this is great. I was laughing throughout the entire movie. There was like 10 jokes every single minute. Almost every line of dialogue is a joke or a build up to a joke later on, and I just love this type of humor. There's one moment where they're in a vehicle and one of the characters is just like, okay, I can't see a thing through the windows. I need everybody to stop being so moist. It cracked me up. I do enjoy these characters and their chemistry within each other. I do think there's some real sweetness on display, especially with Louise's storyline. And it's just one of those movies that is such a light, easy watch that I could see myself watching it plenty more times. It's just a highly entertaining movie that made me laugh, and the songs are really catchy. Just do 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 do. It gets stuck in my head, and I love some of the dancing. It kind of lands in that so bad it's good territory. But there's one song in the end called Not That Evil. I love it. It is hilarious. I'll be at the gym listening to it, and I'll be trying not to laugh because I just find it so funny. And yeah, like I could go more in depth with this specific kind of humor, but it just feels like a movie made for me, and I laughed so many times. I love it. I enjoy it. I can't recommend it enough. My 7th favorite movie of 2022 is Decision to Leave. This is one movie that just isn't getting the recognition it deserves. It is beautifully directed by Chan-wook. The cinematography is just stunning. And the editing and what he is able to bring to this movie is just on a whole other level. This character who's just so insomniac, who's suffering from insomnia, it just puts you in the headspace of this character, and the way he uses cell phones was really creative, and there's just so much ambition from a filmmaking's perspective that I absolutely love. You also got a great performance by Park Hae-hye. I definitely mispronounced his name, but he's really great in this movie. But Tang Wei is amazing, and nobody talked about her performance. She is excellent here, and I love how this movie is part mystery, part romance, and it's a very complex character study. It explores ideas of obsession and purpose and romance in such an interesting manner. And the first time I watched this movie, I wasn't sure about the ending, but it has sat very well with me. It's just one of those endings that stays with you. It's a very haunting, beautiful ending. So you got yourself a real strong script, some great direction, some great performances. Please go out and find this movie. You won't regret it. My sixth favorite movie of 2022 is called Mad God. Now, this movie is not for everyone. It is a gross, disgusting movie filled with blood and guts and shit and puke and all other kinds of bodily fluids. There's also like zero story and zero character work. So right away, know that going into this movie. But if you want to see pure imagination and creativity and craftsmanship on display, then this is the movie to watch. I just can't wrap my head around how someone made it. It is just filled with vision and creativity, and just despite the lack of any real substance to grab onto, I couldn't look away from this movie because every frame is so beautiful, and you can tell there's so much work going into it, and it is just unlike anything else. Like, I love stop motion, I love Coraline, I love Paranorman, Kubo and the Two Strings, Nightmare Before Christmas. This might be some of the best stop motion animation I've seen. And the musical score by Dan Ruhl is one of the most underrated scores of last year. It adds to the atmosphere, it adds to the experience, and man, like, if you've got the stomach for it, if you've got the patience for it, and you like stop motion, like, this is the movie for you. It is just fantastic. I loved it. It is. I loved it the first time I watched it, and upon rewatch, my love only grew. It is just a work of art, and it is just stunning. Yeah. My fifth favorite movie of 2022 is the movie I was referring to at the start. Well, I said Top Gun Maverick is an enjoyable movie, but it's nothing special. I rewatched it a couple months ago, and I'm gonna be honest, I got this movie wrong. This movie is fantastic, and it worked for me much better on a second viewing. I don't know if that's based on expectations or just going into a crowd pleaser and maybe expecting a bit more than that, but this is just a highly entertaining movie. There's a reason why everybody saw it. Your grandma saw it. Your grandpa saw it. Everybody saw this movie. And it's just a great time. Now, I do want to mention something that I think is bullshit, because everybody loves this movie, and nobody is giving Joseph Kosinski the credit he deserves for making it, for directing it. Everything you see on screen is because of him. And he just delivers on every level. The way he captures the sequences in the air is so masterful that, like, just incredible work from him. The fact that people actually were in the planes is just, like, great. Like, I was talking to someone at work about this, and he actually didn't believe me. I'm like, no, they were actually in the planes. It shows a real commitment to the craft. Tom Cruise does a fantastic job here. Miles Teller is really great. Jennifer Connelly is delightful. Glenn Powell is great. And actually, I do want to mention the romance, because in my original review, I said it's unneeded. And I disagree with myself strongly here. I think it adds some real heart, some real sweetness. And it also serves a purpose for the character of Maverick. So I take back that criticism. I thought the story between Maverick and Rooster was really strong. You got yourself some great action. It's just a blockbuster that everybody will enjoy because it is so damn accessible and so entertaining and so well made. And the soundtrack in this movie is great. The One Republic song, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried. I forget the name, but it's just so catchy. And the song by Lady Gaga, Hold My Hand, is fantastic. And like, those two songs were the soundtrack of summer 2022. So yeah, out of this movie, love it. It's a blast. 5th best movie of 2022. My 4th favorite movie of 2022 is a movie made by one of my favorite working directors now, and it's called The Northmen. This movie is just fantastic. I loved it when I first saw it, but it gets better on a rewatch. Like, what Robert Eggers brings to this movie is just phenomenal. He is such an artist, and I love how he delivers on a visual level. Like, the cinematography and the lighting here are top notch. I also love how he fully explores this culture in every way that might be off-putting to some people because of how weird it is, but I really liked it. But the aspect of this movie that has improved with time for me is the story. At first, I was like, it's a simple but effective revenge story, but I get a lot more than just that now. It's a story about a boy who suffered from some tragic loss in life, and he kind of grew up with a naive point of view of everything, and it's him coming to terms with the way things actually were and how things weren't as black and white as he might have once thought. And it does a great job with that. I thought Alexander Skarsgård really delivers on a fantastic physical performance. If it was up to me, he would have been nominated for an Oscar for this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy is great. I love the relationship between those two characters. I thought Nicole Kidman was great. And yeah, like, this movie, it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it just flies by. It's beautifully made. It's got some terrific action. It's got great story, great characters. It's a movie I absolutely love. My 3rd favorite movie of 2022 is The Banshees of Inisherin. This movie is just so damn good. Colin Farrell gives maybe the 2nd best performance of his entire career. He's just on a whole other level here. He's kind of sad and pathetic to begin with, but by the end, he's like a completely different character, and the transition is just masterful. I thought Brendan Gleeson was great as well, and I love how he starts the movie as being stubborn and how he kind of becomes softer by the end of this movie, and that transition is just masterful. Barry Keoghan is really great in this movie. He's got so much personality and got so many weird quirks, but he keeps it grounded, and I love how his character kind of just represents the innocent affected by conflict. And I thought he was great. Carrie Condon is just fantastic as well. I kind of love how her character represents just the person who leaves. The person who knows they're better than this conflict, and the best thing to do is to just go. And I thought she brought lots of layers to her character. And so all four performances are top notch. But you've also got yourself an amazing script that is both hilarious and depressing. It makes you think about life and how you want to spend your time on this planet, and relationships you've had in your life and how they've fallen apart. But it also finds a way to be really funny as well, as it just embraces the dark comedy. And I think it's a masterclass in tone. I think it's incredibly well directed. The script just has so much going on. There's so much subtext. There's so much to these characters. It's beautifully shot. I love Carter Burwell's score. This movie is just amazing. I love it, and that's why it's my third favorite movie of 2022. Now we get to the top two, and I want to say something. These two movies are now two of my favorite movies of all time. These are movies that just excelled in every area for me. And let's begin talking about my second favorite movie of 2022, which will be controversial because this movie is highly divisive. But I rewatched it again last night, and Babylon is fucking incredible, and I love it with every fiber of my being. I honestly think that so many people saw the first 5 minutes where someone gets shit on by an elephant, where this girl pees on a guy, and they made up their mind within that first 5 minutes and just disregarded the rest of the movie. And if you don't like the crudeness or the raunchiness of this movie, that's totally fair, but at least to be open about it. Because I legitimately think this movie is brilliant and it has the best script of 2022. Like, this movie is far smarter than everyone else is making it out to be. It is character driven and it explores ideas of legacy and how you want to spend your time on this planet. And just coming to terms with your own mortality. And it also explores how technological advancements can affect the culture, and how the culture is ever changing, and how some people are resistant to that change, some people embrace that change, some people just get left behind. There's just so much going on thematically, but it also just perfectly encapsulates Hollywood. How movies are an amazing art form that inspire, that make you feel, that just are phenomenal. But so much of what goes on behind the scenes is evil. And it feels like Damien Chazelle is kind of processing that throughout this movie. How he loves movies, but Hollywood is such a terrible system, and it's like a love letter to the movies, but it's like a hate letter to Hollywood. And it's just a perfectly well-balanced, nuanced movie. And it just blows me away how great it is. Like, Jack Conrad is one, like, everything with him in this movie is just perfection. And that scene with him and Jean Smart, just it's just an incredible moment. And like, Brad Pitt gives the best performance of his career here. He just has so much emotional depth to him. There's nuance, and like, every time I watch this movie, it's his story that chokes me up the most. And then you've got Diego Cava, who isn't getting the love he deserved for this movie. He's fantastic here. He is the glue that keeps this movie together. His character is filled with complexities and he highlights it perfectly. He shows emotional range and he's just incredible here. You've got Margot Robbie giving the best performance of her career as she plays the loud Harley Quinn type character, but she also perfectly shows the human underneath and the pain. And I thought that was great, and I thought their relationship had a lot of depth to it. So like, the three big names of this movie are fantastic, but this is the perfect example of how everybody delivers. Tobey Maguire's in this movie for like 10-15 minutes and he's just an utter joy. He's chewing up the scenery and I loved him in this movie. He cracked me up, but he also had me on edge. Jean Smart is really great. Jovan Idupo, I think, is really great as well. I love the way his character is written. I thought Lee Jun Lee is also really great in this movie. Olivia Hamilton is actually one of my favorite performances of last year. She's in like two scenes of this movie and a couple of smaller moments, but she just has so much personality. Same with PJ Bine. So like, the cast is all fantastic. The movie's got a great script filled with depth that has thematic relevance, that has lots of rich character work, but the directing by Damien Chazelle is just top notch. The way this movie is edited together, it has so much energy. Like, it's over 3 hours long and it just flies by. I love the cinematography of this movie. The musical score by Justin Hurwitz is just unbelievable. Like, it is just such... like, it is one of the best musical scores ever composed. Yeah, like, this movie is just brilliant. It is heartbreaking. It is hilarious. It is filled with nuance and depth, and it's just one of those movies I loved the first time I watched it, and then every time I rewatched it, that love only grows. You know, especially when you just watch the first half hour at the first party, and you think about where each character ends up. They foreshadow it. Just this movie's so good. It deserved way better than it got, and I promise you right now, in like 5 to 10 years, people are going to be like, oh, it's a misunderstood masterpiece. It deserved better when it came out. But just know that I was there day one. But unfortunately for Babylon, it is actually only the second best movie of the year to have the Na'vi and Pandora in it, because the best movie of 2022 is Avatar: The Way of Water. And look, I love doing these videos, but it kind of sucks how everything you say is just... you can't go back and change it. Because the first time I watched this movie, I really liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was too long. I didn't care for the musical score, and I had some other issues with the movie. And then I watched it again, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this movie's amazing. I was way off on my first review. And then I saw it a third time, and I'm like, this is the way I wanted to feel after that first viewing. I just fell in love with it. Saw it a fourth time, and I'm like, yeah, this movie is probably in my top 20 movies of all time. Watched it a fifth time and I'm just taken back by just how incredible this movie is. I love it. It gets better every single time I watch it, and some of my issues I have with it I find to be embarrassing now. The musical score by Simon Franklin, I originally critiqued, but I was way off. It's not as good of a score as Babylon, but this score is still one of my favorites of all time. I've listened to it on repeat for like months now. It elevates every moment, it adds some real emotion, it adds a sense of awe and wonder, and I just love the music here so much. The visual effects are the best of all time. I can't believe that so little in this movie is actually real. It's just breathtaking, and the way the water looks, and the way how everything lights up at nighttime, unbelievable. And then you got yourself some terrific action. Like, the entire final act of this movie has got so much going on. Well, it is thrilling, it is tense, and when Jake and Courage are fighting while the ship is going upside down, and Neytiri is trying to get Took, it is just some of my favorite action ever. It is exciting. It reminded me of Inception combined with Titanic, and I loved that. It's got some real emotional depths here, like when every time Neytiri dies, it is heartbreaking. And how Neytiri goes on her revenge quest afterwards, Zoe Saldana is incredible, and she just sells you on the emotion. And when she stabs that guy with an arrow and then fires it out at a different guy, that's just incredible. But there is emotion here. I also love some of the smaller script moments, like how Neytiri's arrows gives Courage PTSD. I love how so much of this movie is the characters talking to whales, but it never feels silly. It feels completely genuine, and it never took me out of it. I love so much of the dialogue in this movie. I owe you a death. It's such a menacing line. Or a son for a son, and how that gets recontextualized. Help them so they do not suffer from the shame of being useless. I love that line way too much. Or when they're trying to fix Kiri and Neytiri is just like, go, you've done nothing. I love that. I love the narration by Jake Sully when he's talking about the beads early on. I love the entire way of water monologue. And I just really come to care for these characters. The entire Sully family with Spider, I liked them at the start and I loved them by the end. You just spend so much time with them and they feel like a real family, and it's nice to see some traditional values on screen. And I think Britton Dalton as Loak and Bailey Bayes are really great in this movie, and I love their relationship. And just most importantly, I just love the way this movie makes me feel. It captures a sense of awe and wonder where there's so much imagination and creativity on display, and it makes me tear up in moments because of how beautiful and how breathtaking it is. It's a patient movie. So much of this movie is just the characters learning to swim, and I couldn't look away. I was just completely engaged with it. And the movie made me care for a bunch of whales. Pirate Khan is a really well-written character. And I love how the water village looks. I love, oh, what else? I love how just watching someone drink a cup of coffee in a mech suit is so just fascinating to look at. Just, this movie's got so much to it, and with each rewatch, it flies by now. It once felt like an overly long movie, but now I'm just like, is it over already? Because it's a lot of movie, it's a lot to take in, but once I've taken it all in and I just absorb it all, it's easy to get lost in this world with these characters, and it's just everything filmmaking should be. You know, so many people talk about how you can't love a movie unless the script is amazing. And I do love the script here, but what makes this movie great is that it just transports you to another place entirely, how it makes you feel real emotion, and it's just the magic of the movies washing over you for the entire 3-hour and 10-minute runtime. I love the culture on display and how these Na'vi are connected to nature and to animals, and it's just beautiful. I love these characters. It captures a sense of awe and wonder. The visual effects and the cinematography are beautiful. The musical score is incredible. It's a movie I've watched plenty of times already, and I'm going to watch it plenty more times. It is everything I love about movies just packed into one, and I adore it. I cannot wait for the sequels to this movie. I love Avatar: The Way of Water, and that is why it's my favorite movie of 2022. But what are your favorite movies of 2022? Please let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.